Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to the next harvest with your host, Avinash Singh. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about some of the issues surrounding Trinidad and Tobago's agricultural system, what's going on in our environment, what's going on in the economy of agriculture, and basically agricultural news over the last couple of weeks, which have caused some concern for farmers and or agro processors or entrepreneurs, those are involved in rice production, those involved in vegetable production, and so on. Of course, I'm referring to the issues surrounding the closure of Nutrien and the availability of urea that is now causing some concern in our economy. So, of course, I welcome you to sit back, enjoy, relax, and take in a good episode, take in what's going on in the agricultural fraternity here in Trinidad and Tobago. I welcome our local, our regional, and our international viewers on Real TV, as well as the Tigo app. For those of you all who are on the go, you can view us, you can look at this program at any time. Of course, you are free to also tune in on all the different channels, cable channels. And of course, there's going to be a rerun of the show as well. So, without further ado, I would like to say that the agricultural sector here in Trinidad and Tobago has been one that is quite challenging, and it responds to any sort of environmental changes or economic changes and so on. I did take note of the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries comments when approached a few days ago regarding the issues surrounding Nutrien and the availability of urea. And while it is appreciated that there are other alternative nitrogen sources or fertilizer, I've seen quite a number of farmers here in Trinidad and Tobago prefer the urea, that is the Nutrien one, which is 46% nitrogen, as opposed to some of the alternatives. Of course, there's calcium ammonium nitrate and there's ammonium sulfate, all of which has urea, the basic building block of urea, which is nitrogen, to assist. Of course, some has advantages and disadvantages. A simple search online and you can get some information in terms of the specifications of the various mixes. With that being said, I really do hope that good sense prevail and good conscience prevail in terms of this situation ironing out and resolving, so that the agricultural sector could be a less antsy, less anxious, less in terms of excitement and how to continue producing food affordable, how to produce nutritious and reliable food for our population. So I know we have spoken, and it's more me sharing information, going into details, identifying the eligibility, the criteria of becoming a farmer, how to become a farmer, what are the requirements to become a farmer, and then what you are entitled to as a registered farmer to be able to get in terms of what the state offers for agricultural production. So these episodes are really the building block of the next harvest for when things kick off, and I really bring this program to you on the field, in your production, in your agro-processing facility, really to showcase what you are doing and what the farming population continues to do to play their part in providing food for this nation and helping with in terms of the sustainability of the agricultural sector. So there's a lot of things, a lot of details I would have taken the time to go through from some of the regulations that currently exist. I want to spend a little bit on regarding the finance bill that just concluded in the parliament and what that means for the agricultural sector. Of course, many times persons are looking at the agricultural sector, and while it was said in the past that agriculture is a tax-free environment. Of course, the earnings of agriculture remains tax-free. All right, so if you are in agricultural production and you are earning income from agricultural means, that is the interpretation of what the agricultural sector is tax-free. That was the real meaning. Of course, there's a number of bureaucracy and lacunas in the law as it relates to the importation of agricultural inputs. And I guess that is what led to the government's role and function in coming to the defense of the agricultural sector and passing a finance bill to remove some of the taxes and make the agricultural sector a little more affordable. And I could give you some examples because having been in the agricultural sector a number of years, I could tell you, nowhere in the customs and excise regulation or the books that guide, the laws that guide how customs and even VAT is charged on inputs in agriculture, nowhere in the past would you find the terminologies for greenhouse or shade house or drip irrigation or agro-processing equipment and machinery. Because let's face it, these technologies are evolving, they are changing with time, and modern day methods of growing food involves technology, involves climate smart technology, involves tools and equipment that can assist farmers making their work a little bit easier, working smarter and not harder. Of course, what you are looking at on your screen right now is just a little taste of what the future holds for agriculture. And I'm referring to the backdrop that I'm sitting before here. If you look behind me, you'll see a drone, and then you'll see also just underneath the programming, you'll see a greenhouse. And this is really to depict where agriculture has come from and where it is going. Of course, a couple of years ago, I've been to Brazil, and I would have seen the drone technology at work. In fact, when a farmer says he has a small holding in Brazil, if you add all the farmers in Trinidad and Tobago, that might be considered a small farmer in Brazil. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of acres of production, in some cases monocropping, monoculture, sugarcane, and most of the sugarcane in Brazil is grown for the production of ethanol gas, the alternative to the gas and diesel that we are accustomed to. Of course, many countries now are investing in alternative or more sustainable, environmentally friendly types of fuel. So when you look at what the drone technology was able to do for some of these farmers, I could tell you it scans the plots, identifies gaps in terms of nutrition deficiency. Instead of going to spray the entire field back, you could send this drone with the sprayers, and this drone can actually go into that zone that is deficient and actually just spray that area or that plant or that section of the plot alone without having to go in and waste chemical and fertilizer and all of that. Greenhouse, on the other hand, for example, can combine your traditional methods with your modern day production in reference to soil-less medium. So you are planting in cocoa peat, perlite. You can plant in water medium directly with hydroponic systems. And there's a number of there's cotton wool, there's various types of potting medium that is not directly associated with soil, as we traditionally know that that method of agricultural production. So these are some of the things that are new in the sense of our regulation and how does customs and excise interpret some of these things. I can tell you as well, if you import drip irrigation lines, it comes in, and sometimes it's coded as articles of plastic. Of course, articles of plastic do attract VAT and duty. So if a farmer has to buy irrigation equipment, irrigation tubing, drip irrigation or drip tape, you will have to incur VAT and duty, which sends the price up. Of course, most farmers are not registered in the formal economy and therefore cannot claim back their VAT as businesses do. So as a registered business, a limited liability company, if you purchase inputs for your business and it includes VAT, you, in your filings, you can actually claim back your VAT as part of your business operation. Farmers do not have that luxury, and that is why, I'm encouraging farmers to formalize their operations. Bring your agricultural model and production to the formal economy, because you will require these things when times to apply for a loan, access a bank account, get a credit card, all of these things that are associated with the formal sense of the economy. I'm encouraging farmers to try to do that as well and get yourselves incorporated, because there are a lot of benefits. There are a lot of benefits in terms of how you can accomplish your food production models more sustainably, and by joining the formal economy, these are some of the options. And then you're talking about there are many grants and incentives and subsidies offered by the Ministry of Agriculture, offered by the Ministry of Trade, a number of agencies that are available. So with that being said, we would like to go to a short commercial break, and when we return, I'll dive right into some of the benefits of why to become, in the normal sense of things, the informal economy in Trinidad and Tobago. Stay tuned, you're looking at The Next Harvest with Avinash Singh.
You're viewing Real TV. Thanks for choosing us.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
I'm Smith. Have you ever wondered what a man is thinking? Have you ever wondered why a man does what he does? Well, join us on our new show called A Man's Perspective, right here on Real TV on Mondays 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., where we discuss just that. The points, the clues to get into a man's mind, right here on Real TV, bringing reality to you.
Macon Construction Company Limited. Save big whilst building stronger. We build with our Macon innovative building systems, which provides high wind speed, earthquake, sea blast and fire resistance. Is thermally and acoustically insulated. Provides improved construction timelines and cost savings. We provide construction services from design to finish and everything in between. Macon Construction Company Limited. Building green today with tomorrow's technology. Contact or visit us today.
Get ready to party with a purpose. The GMVS Community Parent Support Group presents Party with a Purpose, the Cooler Fete. Fully AC activated and sailing aboard the Harbor Master on Friday, December 12th, 2025. Boarding starts at 7:30 p.m. We sail from 8 to 11 p.m. and it's just $250. Bring your cooler and your crew, but remember, no glass and no firearms. It's good vibes only as we party for a cause. Music by DJs Doll, Smalls, and Chunks, featuring Rihanna Gopal, Amit Suknanan, Rishi Singh, Suresh Miraj, the original Pumping in the Sandman, and Tracy D. For tickets, call Crystal at 379-9248. That's Party with a Purpose, the Cooler Fete. Cool vibes, warm hearts, and all for a good cause.
You're viewing Real TV, ultimate in programming. Thanks for choosing us.
Welcome back, viewers, and you are looking at The Next Harvest with your host. I am Avinash Singh. And before we went to break, we were talking about becoming a registered farmer, but not only registering as a farmer, but incorporating yourself into the formal economy, and in terms of the formal sense of the production, getting yourselves a bank account, getting yourselves in terms of the records keeping, because when it's time to take a loan, then you see the importance of having record keeping and getting yourself registered as probably a limited liability company, a sole trader. Even when you are issuing receipts, people, if you want to supply large grocery chains and so on, people know that they would like to deal with reputable companies that can trace back to your address and all of the economies of scale that you would want to do coming into the formal economy. So as I was saying, you can access a number of incentives and grants and subsidies once you are registered or once you are incorporated in the formal economy. We will spend a little more time later on discussing some of these examples and how to access some of these in the country in terms of the various ministries that offer these. I was looking at something over the weekend and I was telling myself, I harvested a bunch of bananas yesterday or day before, I think it was. And this bunch of bananas, it was quite unique because it's almost one of the rare bananas available. And it's called the Hawaiian variegated banana. So the plant's leaf, it's white and green with stripes, and even the banana is also with stripes. And when I posted that in my social media profile, the amount of persons reached out for me for plant material, and I thought to myself, this is an opportunity for persons to get involved in terms of plant material, clean plant genetic material. And that is why I referred to in the last episode, and I commended the Ministry of Agriculture for continuing the distribution of the dwarf Brazilian coconut. Because people in this country, we have been exposed to some of the genetic material that has almost gone exhausted in terms of its productivity. When you speak to farmers planting cassava, they will immediately call the MX variety because that is what we know. That is what we've been planting for decades. So when a government takes the bold and initiative to bring in new plant material and bring in new genetic stock, we will continue to commend those actions, and we will be able to benefit as a country for, disease-resistant varieties, higher yielding varieties of produce, and all of these things will help. I remember representing Trinidad and Tobago. I, went to Costa Rica, and I had interaction with the Cartier University in Costa Rica. And what I saw there is a lot of research and development taking place on coffee. Now, for those of you all who are aware in terms of how the structure of our agricultural economy has transformed, cocoa and coffee was once very dominant in many of the estates in our country. Sandy Grande area, the Montserrat area, Grand Couva, Brasso, Scaparo, some of these areas, were once booming with cocoa and coffee production and plantations. Coffee now, it's like a niche market. I'm happy to say that when you go to the farmers markets, you will be exposed to locally grounded coffee beans, and the taste is a lot stronger and I would say even better. than some of these foreign imported versions. And I'm saying this to say, while in Catia University in Costa Rica, I would have made contact with some of the experts there in that university and started to negotiate for plant material for our type of climate. Because when you look at the price and you look at the availability of coffee, you can identify the premium price coffee. It's like it's the Arabia versions, whereas the Robusta varieties that we are accustomed to in Trinidad might be a little bit cheaper in price. So people are willing to pay premium prices for premium products. And the Arabica variety, it tends to be a lot more expensive in the open market and the international market. So immediately I started to negotiate with this university, Catia University, on behalf of the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and was able to secure a supply or an arrangement of a supply for plant material. And because at the same time, Catia University was working on a low altitude Arabica variety of coffee beans that we here in the CARICOM and Caribbean region can grow. Because as you know, unlike our friends in Jamaica who are well known for the Blue Mountain coffee, the coffee grown in higher altitudes tends to be of a better quality, a better flavor content, and a better price. Of course, we here in Trinidad and Tobago, most of our plantations are mostly in the plains of Trinidad, and not really too much in the high elevation, like let's say Paramin, for example. Paramin, our communities in Paramin are known for our seasoning and avocados and so on. So what this project was supposed to do is source good genetic material and bring in a low altitude Arabica variety of coffee to Trinidad and Tobago. And I know this is something in the progress, it's in the pipeline, and I want to commend again, some of the employees at the ministry, the technical experts, for driving some of these initiatives, of course with government support, to bring in plant material that could make it available for our population and our farmers to really benefit from higher prices. I remember as well growing passion fruit. And if you are familiar with the Blanchisseuse terrain, when you go through the Blanchisseuse road, you will see trellis all over with Christophine. But another crop that you really don't see much, but it's very much present in that Blanchisseuse area, it's passion fruit. And over time, I've grown to understand that passion fruit grown here in our climate in Trinidad and Tobago, it's far superior in taste, quality, texture. The flavor content is a lot better. And you have a lot of demand for this type of juice, passion fruit juice, the raw material, which will be the building block for various types of juices. Those are opportunities available, and these are some of the things I intend to explore with the consumers, the buyers, the sellers, the farmers, to see how we can really fetch better prices on the international market and new markets for some of the commodities that we grow. Of course, cocoa being one of the commodities that we always beat our chest. We boast about TNT finer flavor cocoa, which is probably the most superior in terms of quality, that is used for the flavoring of all the other cocoa varieties that comes from the bulk nations, I call them, the Africa, the Ethiopia countries, Congo, where cocoa is grown in bulk, harvested in bulk, and sold in bulk. But these fine or flavor varieties that we produce here in Trinidad is required to flavor most of the chocolates that you get on the international market, the high value, high price chocolates. So there and there you can see agriculture is not just talking about growing bygone and corn and peas and all of that. There's so much more to agriculture that we here in the CARICOM region, we here in Trinidad and Tobago, we are blessed. We are blessed to have sunlight almost every day. We are blessed to have, a rainy season that we can get fresh water collection, and of course We have to invest in freshwater harvesting and storage. These are some of the areas I would really like to see be expanded upon in terms of the Farmers Incentive Program, because I know farmers would want to store water for the crop time, and it's quite expensive to build concrete tanks below the ground. It's quite expensive to build a tank farm, and of course, you need real estate space if you are going with a tank farm. It occupies a lot of space, bulky, very bulky, to store water. So these are some of the areas I would really like to see, really be expanded upon for more sustainable agricultural models. I always encourage people to go into, environmentally sensitive types of models of irrigation. So you're talking about the drip irrigation rather than just open field flooding. And, it helps you in terms of weed control. It helps you in terms of fertigation, labor. All of these areas will help really bring your production costs down, and you can see a little more profit in your production models. The first couple of episodes, I spent some time going through some of the regulations in terms of how to become a registered farmer, what you can benefit from. The last episode, we spoke about vehicles, tractors, water pumps, irrigation, fittings, and all of these things. Today, I want to spend a little bit of time talking briefly on shade house and greenhouse farming. That is something I have been experimenting with, even in my own private arrangement, my own private estate at my home. In terms of, trying both models, a greenhouse and a shade house, and, trying to see how we can develop a model that is suited for our climate and our conditions, because agriculture is no longer a textbook model, meaning you read it from a research paper, or you read the experience of a farmer in Jamaica, in Dubai, in China, in India, or wherever, and you try to replicate it here in Trinidad and Tobago. Agriculture here, it's really a model that you would want to be heavily invested. But we need to take a short commercial break, and when we return, I'll go into some of the details in terms of shade house and greenhouse farming here in Trinidad and Tobago. Stay tuned.
You're viewing Real TV. Thanks for choosing us.
Hi, I'm Naka, introducing to you Bridging the Gap, where we touch on the news, discuss social issues and current affairs with a twist. Every Monday to Friday in real time, right here on Real TV.
Hi, I'm Zalisa Budu Singh Rupani, and I'm inviting you to join me for Conversations with Zalisa right here on Real TV. It's not just another talk show, it's a space for real stories, real insight, and real impact. We cover it all: health, law, parenting, relationships, drug and substance abuse, mental health, social issues, and so much more, with expert guests who help bring clarity to life's most important questions. So whether you're looking to be informed, empowered, or simply inspired, this show is for you. Weekdays at 10 a.m. with repeats on Real TV.
When security matters most, choose Catch Security Services Limited. We are proudly approved by the Ministry of Homeland Security. We protect your home, business, community, and much more. Our services include professional baton and armed officers, specialized K-9 units, mobile patrols, secure cash pickups, secure transport, and pepper spray applications and supply coming soon. Don't wait. Secure your assets now. Contact Catch Security today. Call 622-6601. Email info@cssl-tt.com or visit our office at 30 to 32 Saddle Road, Maraval.
You're viewing Real TV. Thanks for choosing us.
Welcome back, viewers, and you're viewing The Next Harvest with me, Avinash Singh, your host here on Real TV. Before we went to a short commercial break, we discussed and I was telling you about greenhouse farming and shade house farming and us developing a model that is really suited for Trinidad and Tobago's conditions. Because agriculture, if you speak to most of the farmers, agriculture is not a textbook production model. It is one that you really have to get hands-on or practical training and knowledge, and what might work for you in North Trinidad may not work for me in Central, or it will not work for a farmer in South Trinidad. Because believe it or not, there are microclimates that exist in all communities. Some communities, temperatures might be a little bit different, wind flow, cloud cover, rainfall pattern a lot different. So when you are looking at these protected agricultural systems, you really want to be able to choose a good location. And I can speak from a little bit in the background of my operation at my home, where I would have invested into a greenhouse and a shade house. And yes, there's a difference. Shade house is what I would probably recommend, as the number one priority for us in Trinidad and Tobago. It's a little bit lower in cost, lower operational cost, and highly effective as well. And a shade house is really a covered structure. It may be open around all of the sides, so wind flow can still pass through. You might still be able to do certain crops that require pollination, and you can still have external pollination from natural pollinators, our bees, our insects, all of these, butterfly, birds, you name it. Natural pollination that can occur in your protected agriculture. I would call it a semi-protected agriculture. So you have the interpretations under the regulations for protected agricultural systems can fall in two categories. One, it's called a shade house or a partially enclosed shade house, and then one could be called a fully enclosed greenhouse that you have proper, monitoring and cooling systems and all of these things. But what I want to share with you some information is, how does the ministry or how does the government assist you, a registered farmer, if you want to establish or if you want to invest in a protected agricultural model? And like many of the incentives and subsidies that we've gone through so far, the protected agricultural system is also another category of incentives that you can avail yourself once you are eligible for this. Of course, you must be a registered farmer, you must have your farmer's identification card, and you can construct your greenhouse or your shade house in your property or the property where you have your farmer's badge registered on, and this will immensely give you access to the incentive. And how does the incentive work? So if you are a farmer wanting to put down a new approved fully enclosed shade house on your plot, and I'm going to use the words a little bit interchangeably, fully enclosed shade house or greenhouse. A greenhouse, it is understood that it's more controlled in its environment. It's more protected from the external elements. You have your plastic covering to the top. You might have insect screens that surround the entire structure. You might also have plastic that can go up, wind down. Then you would have to have cooling systems, misting systems. You might put in a porta cool system, and simply to put a water cooling system. Your irrigation system, your climate control system. All of these systems, your shade net and all of these things will really be an advanced greenhouse operation. Very high tech, a lot more technology, a little more training skills that are required to manage a greenhouse. And of course, I always recommend if you're going with a greenhouse, try to have a backup power source. So whether it is solar powered, the sustainable option, or you have a backup generator. Because what I've seen is sometimes farmers spend a lot of money in their production infrastructure, production model, and they say, well, they really need a backup power source. And I've seen certain models, and this is where the NFT or the recirculating systems tend to fail. Because if electricity goes and you don't have a backup, and a couple hours pass and the water is not circulating from that model, that NFT system and that hydroponic recirculating system, oxygen levels are reduced significantly in that plant root zone, and then you have a lot of stress going to your plants, and you can lose your crop. You can lose your leafy vegetables. I've seen it happen already. So these are some of the areas. But how can you benefit? If you are constructing a new approved fully enclosed structure, the state has an incentive in place of 50% of the cost of constructing this new approved fully enclosed shade house, up to a maximum of $250 per square meter of construction. Of course, I give you some of the clarification. Some of these models, and when you are being billed from your contractors and whoever, labor component is quite subjective. So labor has not been incorporated in terms of the cost factor when you are claiming an incentive or subsidy in most of the categories. So if you are building a fully enclosed shade house and you spend for every square meter to construct this greenhouse or shade house 500 TT per square meter and beyond, you might be able to claim back the full or the maximum, which is $250 per square meter. It's simple maths. You multiply that square meter by the amount of the size of your structure, and in terms of your material costs, that is what is going to be considered, and you will be able to avail yourself to incentive for the construction of a fully enclosed greenhouse or shade house structure. Of course, some farmers, they tend to do a model where they just want to cover the top in plastic, because the real reason for going protected agriculture, one of the most important reasons, is most of the crops that we grow cannot or do not like excessive moisture by its root zone, and heavy downpour of rainwater or heavy downpour of overhead irrigation tends to increase the soil moisture content and makes the environment around the plant very, very conducive to bacterial or fungal growth. So if you have a plant that has been heavily sedated with water, waterlogged, soak, these are the right conditions for fungal and bacterial infection, which causes your bacterial spot, your plants to quail or wilt. And that is why some farmers prefer to cover the top, so to prevent that direct rainfall from flooding your plants. And of course, in recent times, we've seen some heavy downpour here in our environment in Trinidad and Tobago. Short spells, but very, very intense, and packing quite a punch of water that is saturating your plant zones, which causes a number of other issues. Just picture you are under the water. I mean, oxygen levels are reduced. Your plant root zone is stifling. It's flooded. It cannot breathe. There's no percolation. There's no drain off. All of these conditions help to reduce your plant uptake in terms of plant nutrients and oxygen and so on, and you will tend to lose your crops. Then you have the cost of establishing a partially enclosed shade house. What I mean by partially you have your structure and you cover the top with just plastic, but you have all your side walls open for ventilation, airflow, pollination, some of these areas for machinery and equipment usage and so on. The incentive you would be able to access on this type of agricultural model is 50% of the cost, up to $100 per square meter, unlike the fully enclosed greenhouse or shade house structure, which is $250 per square meter. So it's 50% of the cost, up to $250 per square meter. Whereas the partially enclosed shade house, it's $100 per square meter, up to, and that is a 50% allowable rebate. So, and there's really no limit. If you're a farmer and you want to really invest, because we understand, I mean, I can tell you, investing in greenhouse or shade house is quite expensive. So this incentive really helps cushion the effect of your investment and helps you to recover that high capital output in terms of what you would have to invest. So breaking down those numbers, if you spend around $250,000 to put down a 5,000 square feet or a 3,000 square feet shade house or greenhouse, definitely you can see this incentive is very, very beneficial. When you get back that, you know, you can be able to reinvest and put up another structure and so on. And happy to say that it's not just the infrastructural costs you can be able to claim, because apart from the cost of establishing the shade house or the greenhouse, your internal structures you can also claim on various other types of incentives. For example, your irrigation system, your pipe and fittings, your irrigation valves and so on. Those things can fall in the other categories that we've spoken about in the last episodes in claiming those subsidies. And then, you know, you can tie also the Youth in Agriculture grant, which is a $30,000 grant available to young people between the ages of 18 to 40, I believe, in terms of incentives that are not really catered for under the regulation. So sometimes a farmer might be investing in an agricultural farm, and a young person for the first time making these types of investment, you might be purchasing or you might be building a road towards your farm, a drainage system, some high quality, you know, irrigation system, things that are not covered under the incentive. You can avail yourself to that under the Youth in Agriculture grant, which is paid in 15,000 tranches over a 2-year period. So again, 50% of the cost of that investment you will be able to claim. And as I say, you can mix some of these incentives with various other types of incentives and be able to benefit from all of these. I haven't even gone and really touched the incentive structure for aquaculture, fisheries, rabbit production, poultry production. But stick a little pin, get something to drink and return. We'll be right back after this commercial break and we will go into some of those details. Stay tuned.
You're viewing Real TV, ultimate in programming. Thanks for choosing us.
Welcome to The Power Play, the most exciting period in sport. Join us every Friday from 7 to 8 p.m. as we bring to you all things sport. We break down football, cricket, basketball, all the latest sports in the Caribbean and of course across the world. Right here on Real TV, your station for local sport. Real to the heart, local to the core.
Get ready to party with a purpose. The GMVS Community Parent Support Group presents Party with a Purpose, the Cooler Fete, fully AC activated and sailing aboard the Harbor Master on Friday, December 12th, 2025. Boarding starts at 7:30 p.m. We sail from 8 to 11 p.m. and it's just $250. Bring your cooler and your crew, but remember, no glass and no firearms. It's good vibes only as we party for a cause. Music by DJs Doll, Smalls, and Chunks, featuring Rihanna Gopal, Amit Suknanan, Rishi Singh, Suresh Miraj, the original Pumping in the Sandman, and Tracy D. For tickets, call Crystal at 379-9248. That's Party with a Purpose, the Cooler Fete. Cool vibes, warm hearts, and all for a good cause.
When security matters most, choose Catch Security Services Limited. We are proudly approved by the Ministry of Homeland Security. We protect your home, business, community, and much more. Our services include professional baton and armed officers, specialized K-9 units, mobile patrols, secure cash pickups, secure transport, and pepper spray applications and supply coming soon. Don't wait. Secure your assets now. Contact Catch Security today. Call 622-6601, email info@cssl-tt.com, or visit our office at 30-32 Saddle Road, Maraval.
Welcome back, viewers, and for those of you all who are viewing locally, regionally, internationally, I welcome you to the next harvest. I am your host, Avinash Singh, and as a practicing farmer, I'm taking the time to go through some of my experiences and some of what I have gone through in terms of becoming a registered farmer in this country, being able to access incentives and subsidies, and clarifying how can you also be able to benefit from some of what the state offers for you to get involved in agriculture. And before we went to a break, I was discussing the various areas of incentivizing you as farmers and registered farmers in this country. So it's not just for greenhouse or shade house or vegetable production. You are in every sector, subsector of the agricultural industry can benefit from incentives and subsidies in various categories. So whether you're a goat and sheep farmer, you're a pig farmer, a poultry farmer, rabbit, you're in the fishing industry, you're in the citrus industry, you are in the rice industry, you are into the agro-processing industry, all of these areas you can avail yourself to incentives to help you to upgrade your farming operation, to purchase new equipment, machinery, and be able to really benefit. And for those of you all who are looking on, wanting to know, well, how can you become a farmer? Remember, my first and second episodes, I would have taken the time to go through in detail the requirements to be a farmer. As we go along in this show, I will recap ever so often because I know, we have new viewers, we have persons coming in for the first time, and I welcome you. We have persons who might need a little bit refreshing. And very soon, in the new year, we will be doing these programs out on the field. We'll be coming to you. I will even entertain, call-in segments, calling in persons, in our social media platforms, viewing, can send your questions, ask questions, call in live. So I will be able to personalize your situation and hopefully give you some clarification and answers to some of the concerns you might have in terms of your particular case and your need. Because you have farmers who would want to access pickups, you want to access tractors, trucks, harvesters, all of these things you can really avail yourself to. So let's talk about the incentives and subsidies that our livestock farmers can avail themselves to. So goat and sheep farmers, if you are intending to establish a pasture, so what is a pasture? A pasture is basically a plot of land where you have forage growing. And forage could be in the form of grass, different types of vegetable production like corn, sorghum, soybean. All of these crops, Trichantera, Glyceria, some of these things are high protein sources for forage that you feed to your animal. So if you're establishing this pasture, there's a 50% rebate that you can access, which is 50% of the cost of establishing your pasture up to a maximum limit of $6,000 per hectare. Again, if you spend $12,000 per hectare, the state allows you in rebate of 50% of that up to $6,000. So if you spend $12,000, you will be able to claim back an incentive, $6,000 per hectare for establishing your pastures. Persons who would like to import their semen and embryo, of course, those are some of the modern technologies. You know, back in the days when farmers want to get a new breed of livestock, you have no choice, but you have to actually bring in live animal. You have to rent a cargo compartment in a shipping airline. Very, very expensive. And you still run the risk of these animals not meeting the eligibility criteria, having to be quarantined, even dying while in transit. All of these are real risk that traditionally our farmers were exposed to when they wanted to bring in a new variety of animal. So you go down to Barbados and you see the Barbados black belly, you find a nice ram and a few female and you want to bring that stock of animal to Trinidad. You know, whether you fly them across on Caribbean Airlines cargo section or any other airline that has a cargo section, quite costly, quite expensive because it's a live animal. Imagine if you find a bull or a bison and you want to bring in that animal to the country. You could imagine the size of the animal and of course all of the logistics in terms of shipping, transportation, quarantine, storing. So an approved imported semen or embryo, you can actually avail yourself to a $20,000 per year rebate to help with increasing the genetic stock of your animal, to help you to import animal into the country. So breeding animals, if you want to bring in breeding animal, you can also avail yourself up to $2,500 per animal, and you have an incentive structure of 15 animals per year that you could import into Trinidad and Tobago and avail yourself to that. If you want to convert your open pasture model to improve your housing requirements for your animal, as you've seen over time, a lot of farmers now are going towards the intensive structure or semi-intensive structure, and that is building pens, building elevated pens, building proper housing accommodation for your animal. There is a rebate structure for you. 50% of the cost up to $30,000 to encourage best practice and proper sanitization in the housing of your production facilities. And that is with respect to goat and sheep production. The similar systems apply for pig production, poultry production, rabbit production, and so many other areas that you can avail yourself in these categories. So for example, pig production, if you would like to put down an approved housing infrastructure for your pig production, believe it or not, you can get back 50% of the cost up to $30,000. If you build a pig pen, you will get back up to $30,000. If you put down housing for poultry, 50% is also allowed to be rebated for broiler or large pen production. Up to $150,000 is allowed, 50% of the cost, to be able to establish your poultry operation. So there's really no excuse for registered farmers investing in agriculture here in Trinidad and Tobago, because the state certainly has mechanisms in place to assist you, the farming population, to cushion the impact of your investment, and we all know agriculture is high capital expenditure, high capital investment that you are required to make. So I hope in this session we're able to clarify some of what you might have that burning question in terms of how to construct or which model to put down, whether it be a shade house, a fully enclosed greenhouse, a fully enclosed shade house, whether it is to build a new goat pen or a sheep pen, a pig pen, a poultry structure, a structure for your rabbit production. All of these areas you can avail yourself, and I will always go back in saying, once you are a farmer wanting to invest in agriculture and you don't know, what the criteria might be, please visit your county office, and there's county offices set up in every county in this country. And of course, the Tobago House of Assembly in Tobago handles the equivalent in terms of what we here in Trinidad are exposed to. So all of the incentives and subsidies we are talking about that are available to farmers in Trinidad, the Tobago House of Assembly manages the equivalent for the Tobago farmers. So no one is left out, and all farmers can really avail themselves. So it's not to say that the state is not making the effort and not making the incentive and subsidies available. And like I say, I would need many more episodes to go through all of the detailed infrastructure, incentive, subsidies, machine, equipment, all of that is available to registered farmers that you can avail yourself to. So that is really my intention, as I said from the start, to bring information towards you, the farming population, so that you will not be left alone, and you will understand that whatever investment you would like to make in agriculture, there is something for you, and you can benefit from the state in terms of a financial grant or incentive that you can make yourself available to. Of course, it's a little bit of a paperwork and a little hassle to go through, but it's well worth it. And I really implore all farmers to explore all of these areas, because sometimes you talk to farmers and they will tell you, well, I didn't know this is available. And that is why the next harvest is important, to bring all the relevant information, bring reality to you. Because for heaven's sake, this is Real TV, and we are real in terms of what is available, and we are real in terms of how can you access some of these incentives and subsidies that are available for you to expand your agricultural production. And that is why I'm taking the time to go through right here on the next harvest all of the details in terms of how to become modern day agricultural enthusiasts and really benefit from state funding that is available to you. So as we close this session and this episode, I hope that I've been able to make some additional information available to you so that you can now avail yourself. And as I said again, I know you have some questions, and I know you might have a personalized or a particular issue that you might want to question, you would want to question me about. In the new year, I will be able to open this program to a more public participation, where you can call in live and you can send your questions on social media, you can email us, and you can reach out to us with questions and concerns that you may have, that I will try to answer or undertake to get the information and answer at a later stage or at a later time. So with that being said, I thank you for joining me on the next harvest. This has been quite a very fact-finding mission. It has been very informative. Information is good, right? And the key to really be a good farmer is utilizing all of the assets that have been made available to you to really produce food that are more affordable, produce food that is sustainable, produce food that is nutritious and available to our population. And I dare say, we will explore the opportunities later on of when you produce more than enough for your local market, what will we do with the rest? And we will be referring to agro-processing and accessing the foreign markets and export potential of your commodities. These are some of the things to look forward to on the next harvest. And I certainly say that, it's my pleasure to really be here, coming from the background of policy as well as practical, and being able to guide you in terms of how to access and how to bridge the gap in getting your production models going. And yes, if you're a kitchen garden farmer and you want to know, what is in it for you, I'll dedicate a couple sessions just for you, talking about what you can do to also contribute to the agricultural sector here in Trinidad and Tobago. At the end of the day, I am here to help you, and you will be able to produce more food, feeding our nation with pride, producing safe, reliable, affordable, and nutritious food for our population. And that is the intention of the next harvest, and that is the intention of this show. So friends, viewers, local, international, regional, thank you for viewing this episode. I invite you to join me on Real TV every Wednesday on 9 a.m. where we continue to dissect and break down the agricultural sector here in Trinidad and Tobago. And I say thank you. May God continue to bless you. Happy farming, and I will see you on the next episode. Take care. Goodbye.